Are you an HVAC professional looking to set your business apart? Then the Leading HVAC podcast is your go-to resource. I'm Kimon Hines, coach and trainer at SVE. And in this podcast, we'll share stories of success and struggle from leaders in the HVAC industry. You'll hear from experienced executives, managers, and innovators, providing you with the hard-earned insights from their journeys. These insights will equip you with the knowledge you need to navigate challenges and truly lead in the ever-evolving HVAC world. Welcome back to the Leading HVAC podcast. I'm your host, Kimon Hines. Today, I'm joined by Shannon Hunter. She is the CSR Dispatch Manager at Daniell Heat and Air. But before I introduce you to Shannon and we get into our conversation, I want to invite you. Make sure you subscribe to this podcast on whatever platform you are listening to this on or watching this on. And also share this episode with someone in your company, someone in the industry who can benefit from it. Shannon, welcome to today's podcast.
Thank you. Appreciate you having me.
Awesome. Well, let's start off with this. What got you into the HVAC business and how long have you been in it?
Okay. I've been in the HVAC business for 13 years.
Okay.
I went through a life change and had been a stay-at-home mom and kind of worked side jobs, secretarial jobs, and all of a sudden found myself needing to be the sole breadwinner. So I applied with a temp agency and they said, hey, we've got a heat and air company that needs some summer help. I said, okay, let's do it. And so I started on July 5th. And as anyone in the South knows, holiday weekends, and we are a resort town, so we have a lot of lake homes and stuff. July 5th was a horrible day to start in the industry. So I remember going home that first day going, I can't do this. This lady's talking, the girl I was working with, like, she's talking Chinese. I don't know anything about HVAC. These phones are crazy. It was total chaos. But I've been doing it ever since. So yeah.
So
I've enjoyed learning the business. And
so 13 years.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm sure a lot has changed in those 13 years, and we'll get into some of the changes a little bit later. But tell us about what your role is now. What I know I gave a title, but what is your role now, and what does that look like on a day-to-day basis?
So I kind of oversee dispatch and CSRs, helping with processes. I'm backup on the phones if we've got somebody out or if the dispatcher's gone. I kind of help out there. I kind of oversee the billing, help with estimating on repairs, and then overall as a company, I'm also helping with processes and trying to make sure we have procedures in place so that customers don't fall through the cracks and technicians are taken care of. So I do a little bit of everything.
Yeah, sounds like it. So you started off, you mentioned you started on July the 5th, like the best day in the world to start in the HVAC business, right? But kind of talk us through the progression. You went through, you got hired through a temp agency. What are the different roles that you've held in this company?
Okay, so I came in and I just kind of was helping with the phones and helping her catch up on billing and stuff like that. And then it progressed to a service agreement coordinator. So I handled all of the service agreements. And she eventually moved to the accounting department. So I took over the job as dispatch. And as dispatcher, it was a smaller company that I worked for then. I dispatched, I priced all parts, I ordered all parts. I oversaw the service coordinator, the maintenance coordinator. I checked in parts. I did the invoicing and the receivables and called in permits. I did a little bit of everything. Yeah. I did the marketing. So it was that person. So yeah.
So how long have you been in this present role of CSR Dispatch Manager?
So I've been with Daniell for 2 years. And so it's been a nice fit, nice change. So.
Okay. So as we talk about leadership, right? This is the Leading HVAC podcast. What are some of the qualities you think someone needs to have in order to be a leader in this business, but specifically really in the role that you have?
To be a leader, you need to like people. You need to want to help people because customers can call in and they can be angry and when they're hot or they're cold and things aren't working right and prices are expensive, and so it takes a lot of skill to find a happy medium and to make a customer happy. And so I think that's definitely, you
A
gotta
big
be a
one.
people person.
That's a big one for sure, for sure. Now, you are in a interesting role. You lead the CSR dispatch team. You're a part of the leadership team of the company. And for a lot of our listeners and viewers, they may be in companies where they may not have a CSR dispatch manager. They may just have one CSR, one dispatcher. They may have one person doing both roles. And sometimes I think the challenge, Shannon, is that other roles in the company may not understand quite the importance, the volume of work, what it takes, just even the stresses of the CSR dispatch role. So, what is something that, and you'll get a chance to speak, you can speak now for CSRs and dispatchers all around. What's something you wish techs, owners, and managers understood about CSR dispatch and the role that it plays?
It's not as easy as they think it is. I understand, I understand. I've heard it millions of times. You're in attics, you're crawling under houses, and we get that your job is difficult and demanding. But we are overseeing all of the calls coming in and making sure everybody is happy, taking care of customers, number one, taking care of technicians right up there. I mean, I don't know if one's more important than the other. You got to take care of both. And so I've always said every technician needs to work in the office one day
It's
during the
one day.
summer just to see what the call volume is and what all of the intricacies of trying to dispatch the right tech to the right call and to keep them happy and to manage the customer's expectations and requests. And it's a lot of moving pieces.
Yeah. And that's a good perspective to have that even though you're in the office, right? So there's AC in there and the climate is comfortable. The work is still demanding. There's a whole lot of volume of work and a lot of decisions that need to be made. And it's very stressful. And I think you make such a good point. All the roles are important, and it's important that we value each other in the business.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely agree with that.
So 2 years you've been in this role as CSR Dispatch Manager, and we've had a chance to interact. We've been in training together. And what impressed me is you brought your entire team. You had some team members who had been with the company for a while, and you had some new team members. Talk about, Shannon, how you went about growing your team and building this team of CSRs and dispatchers.
So when I started, we had one CSR, one dispatcher, and last spring decided we need to move that into two CSRs. And so we redid the office, made room for them, and we have switched over to a computerized phone system. We were just on regular landline before that, which allowed the call volume to increase more than we realized. Um, I feel like we could almost use a third CSR and maybe another dispatcher, but we're where we're at right now. So we've tried really hard. Most CRMs, I don't feel, and I've worked on 5 different ones. So most CRMs, I don't feel are equipped to do what we need it to do. Book the call for the CSR, right tech to the right job for the dispatcher. And so that has been tricky for us to try to figure out how to make that work because they're not all in the same office. We've got CSRs in one side of the building and the dispatchers in our own office, so we've got to have communication, and we've got to make the CRM work. So I've had to tweak and create like a capacity planning spreadsheet for the CSRs to work off of. So that the dispatcher could make the decisions that she needs to make as far as who needs to go to that job.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's been a little tricky, but we're growing and I think it's working. And we're actually, we lost a CSR a few weeks ago. And so we're in the hiring process again. So that's always fun, but we're going to get them in place before busy season starts. So.
Gotcha, gotcha. Well, all the best with that. So you have this team now. How do you like build team camaraderie among your team members? How are you like continuing, like giving them continuing education? How are you training them, keeping them sharp, helping them to understand latest trends and stuff?
So we do require them to do once a week training with SVE on the CSR dispatch. And then we are looking for opportunities and different articles. I went to a trade show last week and brought back some good stuff. And thanks to AI, I had some good notes and sent that on to them and asked them, to kind of read through it. And we have weekly meetings, which I don't feel like is enough at this point. So I'm wanting to transition into a daily morning huddle because the CSRs need to know where we're at as far as capacity, and the dispatcher needs to be able to communicate to them, this is what today looks like. And so we're working on transitioning into maybe a daily huddle for them.
Yeah. Shannon, that's a good point. I think communication, right? In all levels of the company in the HVAC world is important, but especially between CSRs and dispatchers, because they are managing two sides of the same part of the business. And so that's a great point that you make, that even more meetings would be helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah. So 13 years, what have you seen in terms of the changes in the HVAC business, period? Like, what have you seen evolve, and how has that affected the role of CSR Dispatch?
Well, in the role of CSR Dispatch, when I started, we had a piece of paper where we took the call and wrote all the information, and I had an appointment book with each tech's name in it, and that's where you did your scheduling, and they called in after everyone to get their next call, so everything was on paper. So I've seen the transition and pushed my previous bosses to make the transition to mobile dispatching and into, mobile billing and all of that. So I've worked through all of those processes, and they're more efficient. And so technicians sometimes don't like technology. My theory when I first started, I would tell them, I'm like, you work on HVAC, I'll handle the computer part. But over the years, I've had to change that, and I can't say that to them because they also need to learn the technology. So sometimes that's a challenge.
Yeah.
And I'm usually the one that's helping direct them and implementing the technology part of it. So
that makes sense. So CSR's dispatchers technology has definitely enhanced, made some things automated, easier to keep up with. But you make a great point. Technology is affecting all of HVAC. So your technicians, some of them having to use the iPads and all of the different tools, and you now having to be the ones to help to onboard them to those processes. Sure, that has been a very fun process.
yes. Yes.
Yeah.
And you think it's just the older ones, that don't, but we've got some younger ones that just like, I don't like technology. That's why I want to fix stuff. I'm like, sorry, it's just part of it now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting. You mentioned you went to a conference and you were able to bring back some notes and share with them using AI. I'm wondering, and this may be an early conversation, but have you seen AI help in your work in the CSR dispatch role yet? Or do you anticipate anything that AI might do to help what you're doing?
We have not used it a whole lot, but I do anticipate it's coming. We use it after hours on-call service. Well, I saw there's other options for that using AI. And so I definitely think it's coming.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Yeah.
Good or bad. It's a whole, it's a whole thing.
Yeah. Shannon, as you're talking and as you're sharing, one of the things I'm getting from you is in your role as a leader and especially in this role, CSR Dispatch, you have to be able to embrace change and able to kind of make adjustments in the work that you're doing. Kind of talk about that to anyone who might be leading in any role in the HVAC business, and particularly someone who might be leading in the CSR dispatch, just about embracing change and adapting to change.
Yeah. It's easy to keep doing what we've always been doing, but sometimes that's not the best way. It's not the most efficient way. And so one thing about me is I will bite off. I'll take that elephant, and we're working on an elephant right now in our office, and I'm just reminded one bite at a time. We just take one bite at a time, but it's changes. You have to. You'll grow stagnant and you'll die if you don't accept the change. And the whole industry is moving towards technology, and so we have to be willing to take a bite of that elephant and try to work it in and teach people and bring them along.
Absolutely. That's such a good way to look at it. One bite at a
Yeah.
time. One bite at a time.
Yep.
And I have a few more questions for you. So, what's one unexpected obstacle that has come up in this role, maybe over the last couple of years, that you've had to overcome? If you don't mind sharing, just an obstacle that you've had to overcome and how you did it.
Probably goes back to the change, maybe want to change a procedure or a process, and people are like, but this is the way we've always done it. And
Yeah.
I'm like, well, let's see if we can find a better way. We don't want to have holes in the process or in the system. So sometimes we have to make changes to tweak that. And so that's probably one of the biggest
Yeah.
obstacles, but
Yeah. Yeah.
we've overcome, and I've had to prove myself. I'm not just making changes for the fun of it. I'm
Yeah.
trying to help everybody's job be easier
Absolutely.
and to make sure we are taking care of our customers.
Absolutely. Now, as we're doing this interview now, are you guys in a busy period or is this more a shoulder season right now?
It should be a shoulder season right now, but it is not.
Okay.
We are like, we might need another install crew. We are so busy.
Wow.
Our
Wow.
service technicians are really busy. So not sure. It is November, but we are high 80s yesterday. So I mean, it's still warm here. Don't know if that has to do with it, but
Yeah.
we're just blowing and going.
Wow.
So yeah,
Wow.
good
You know,
problems.
so this is a question I have then. It's busy in your office and thank you for taking time out for this call. How are you able to look so stress-free in the midst of this busy time?
I don't know. I'm glad I look stress free. Yeah, yeah. I
You got to tell us the secret, Shannon, because a lot of, and maybe that's the bigger question is how to manage stress in this role of CSR dispatch. The phone's ringing, there's demands from customers, there's demands from our technicians, there's demands from our leadership team. And you might be talking to a CSR, a dispatcher, or a manager who is in a busy period. Phones are ringing and they're just overwhelmed. And maybe that's even leading to losing team members. What are any things that we can do to sort of bring down the stress levels?
Sometimes you just have to take a break,
Mhm.
and walk away. You got to make sure you have balance in life and work for one. I think one bite at a time. I
Yeah,
do. I just, that's my theory is I get overwhelmed. There's so many files in so many areas. And it's like, okay, what's most important? Just need to focus on this and just do one thing at a time. I've always
absolutely.
said I was a great multitasker. I raised 5 children. I'm like, I can multitask with the best, but maybe it was at the
Yeah,
training we did in Dallas. You talked
yeah,
about, are you really a multitasker? And when I really thought about it, I thought, no, I can focus on one thing at a time.
yeah.
And yeah, even with all the interruptions and everything that comes with the office, everybody needing something and everything is always urgent.
That's
Um,
right.
but
Great, just great point. Make what's most important, and just work one thing at a time. Even in a busiest
yeah,
period, you just have so much capacity, so you can
yeah.
just handle one thing at a time. Thank you, Shannon.
Yeah, and planning out your day. This
Abs-
day I need to work on this project or that project or yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right, Shannon, I want to close off with what we call our rapid fire questions. This is where I throw questions at you and you answer in 30 seconds or less. Let me know if you're ready.
Okay, let's do
All right.
it.
What's the best business or leadership book or resource that you have read or used recently or anytime?
Probably most of my leadership training has gone John Maxwell books in the past. I'm currently reading Dare to Lead by Brene Brown.
Yeah, it's a great
It's
book.
vulnerability as a leader
Mhm.
and having hard conversations. So that's a big one for me. Sometimes hard conversations I would prefer to avoid. So yeah,
Absolutely. Brene Brown is amazing. Thank you. That's a
yeah.
great book. What's one thing you want to be better at as a leader in the next year?
Probably mentoring, coaching. Jason had brought up something about maybe me doing some coaching with the girls and the office staff, and I don't know that I feel equipped for that. So that is something I want to work on and try to work towards.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, you mentioned this a little bit earlier, having outlets outside of work. So tell us, what does Shannon do to de-stress and to enjoy life outside of working in this role?
She finds somewhere where there's no cell phone service. Yeah, hiking trails, jeep trails, kayak in the middle of the lake.
Nice.
Recently, I've been taking dance lessons, so
Nice.
I'm learning the waltz and
Nice.
some kind of stuff.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. That's good to know. That's awesome. And you're right. After you've answered phones and coordinated phone calls all day long, the last thing you want to do to relax is be on the phone.
Absolutely.
All right. So here's my last question. If you could go back in time, what's one piece of advice you would give to yourself when you first became a leader?
So I had my first real adult job. I had a boss that told me I was emotional. I don't remember anything about why we had the conversation or what brought it up, but it ingrained in me that emotional was weak leadership. And so I would go back and tell myself that that doesn't mean you're a weak leader. We need to base our decisions on facts, but emotions bring the humanity into it and make you real with people. So I think I would go back and tell myself that didn't make me a weak leader because I was emotional.
Shannon, I love that. That is the perfect way to end this episode. For anyone watching this, please lean into some of the areas that maybe you would have thought are your weaknesses that really might be strengths of yours that can allow you to connect with your team members, allow you to connect with customers. Shannon, thank you for taking some time out today during this very busy time. So you can take a few minutes after this is over. They don't know you're off of this call. You can just
That's right. Have a little cup of coffee
and
by myself.
yeah, and for those of you watching this, if you're in an HVAC business, you have someone in the role of CSR Dispatch, please share this episode with them. Share this with any leader or manager, even your technicians, because I think it helps us all to understand the importance and what the day-to-day looks like in this role. And as always, we want to encourage you to continue to lead well.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Leading HVAC podcast. If you would like to learn more about SBE, you can find us online at sbeodyssey.com. That's sbeodyssey.com. If you enjoyed today's episode, we would appreciate it if you would leave us a review on this podcasting platform. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.